of the Adult Education Committee that arranges these Exploring the Faith sessions, and it's great that you're here. I am so excited that Jane Harness said yes. We actually saw her covered in the press. I'm not even sure it was Mel Rogers who told us about if we were lucky enough to get her. She's the target person. So when you call someone out of the blue to do this kind of thing, especially when you don't have a big honorarium to offer and they're not members of the church, it's sort of like you worry a little bit about it. It was so exciting when I actually reached Jane and she said, "I'm a Presbyterian." And so I knew that was like a foot in the door. Anyway, what's been so wonderful, we parents at the church actually asked for this topic, and although they have conflicting things happening at this particular time, the fact that we have this recorded makes it very useful for parents to be able to watch it at a later time. It's very topical. But let me tell you a little bit about Jane Harness. This is part one of a two-part series that she's going to do for us. But Dr. Jane Harness is a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Michigan. She's an undergraduate of the University of Michigan, go Blue, so she's back, and a graduate of the medical school at Michigan State, the University College of Osteopathic Medicine. She did her psychiatric residency at Wayne State University and the Detroit Medical Center. It was really fun to look at her website because she has published numerous articles in highly prestigious journals, at least the best I can tell. But she's also been cited and discussed in NPR, and she is one of the experts in WebMD. If you look at this topic, and as she cited here, which I didn't know, she's also involved in screenwriting. So she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But Jane, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that really warm introduction. I really appreciate it. So my name is Jane Harness, and although I'm here today and I am a faculty at University of Michigan, I'm not really speaking on their behalf or any of the organizations that I'm a part of, and I'm not giving any formal medical advice today, but happy to discuss this topic further. As far as disclosures, I don't have any financial conflicts of interest. I do have a couple of grant-funded research studies, the first of which is development and preliminary testing of a Papageno story interview intervention, and that's funded by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and the WIDA Scholar Award. And then my current research project entitled Social Media Single Session Intervention to Promote Youth Insight, Self-Efficacy, and Knowledge to Make Changes is funded by the Research Scouts at Michigan Medicine. Okay, so for our learning objectives today, by the end of this talk, I'm hoping that you all will have gained some practical tips about setting changes on different platforms to minimize unwanted content, and also how to reset the algorithm altogether if that's available on a certain platform. Also, I'm hoping that you'll have learned how to turn the like and view count off and additional sources of information about settings and sharing on social media. So today we're going to be talking mostly about content. So basically the images and videos that come up on social media. And then the next session we're going to be talking about time spent on social media and different ways to change your time spent, or for youth to change their time spent. So how do we think about social media use and youth mental health broadly? It's such a big topic, and we know that it's very complex and it's not a one-size-fits-all topic by any means. So this was an umbrella review by Valkenburg et al. 2021 that showed that social network site use is weakly associated with higher levels of ill-being, but also with higher levels of well-being. So this result suggests that they're not opposite ends on the same spectrum, but actually two separate spectrums. So I kind of showed these two arrows here as two separate spectrums just to kind of visually show that, there can be some impact on ill-being and separately some impact on well-being. And the way that I like to talk about this is we can imagine maybe a 15-year-old watching YouTube videos about puppies. And of course, that is a joyful thing, and that is something that, could actually benefit that person. On the contrary, if someone is receiving a lot of mean comments on social media, that could actually really impact negatively and really impact ill-being. So we think of these two things very separately because each individual is very different. Each individual who's using social media is very different. And then what they're actually doing on social media is very different. So that's important to keep in mind. So what are the different ways that social media contributes to well-being and ill-being? So on the left side here, we see for the contributions to well-being, there's maintaining friendships and making new ones, finding community and support for specific activities. Maybe they are really interested in soccer and they've been able to follow along certain games. Maybe they're really interested in music or art, so they're able to kind of find a community there. Sharing creative work such as art, humor, or music. Learning new information. Of course, the flip side of that is we know that some of the information on the internet is not accurate, so of course there's a flip side to that. Exploring and expressing oneself and finding safe spaces, especially for people who may not feel comfortable expressing themselves or sharing in person. Contributions to ill-being we see on the right side here. What we're going to be talking about today specifically is harmful content. And there's also privacy and safety concerns, of course. If a youth starts a social media account and it is not private, essentially anyone can find them and if they're posting even just a picture in front of their house that might seem kind of benign, but it's actually giving a lot of personal information out to the general public. So there's privacy and safety concerns. There's, of course, the concern of cyberbullying. We're going to get into that a little bit more. And then use that is displacing other activities. So maybe it's displacing sleep, maybe it's displacing exercise, homework, or family activities, or even just in-person time with friends. So that's another thing that we think about a lot. There's also the concern about potential impacts on self-esteem. There's a lot of unfair comparisons with others, overvaluing number of likes or shares. Maybe they're seeing that all of their peers have many more likes on their photos than they do, so they might compare themselves in that way. They might see actually altered images online of celebrities and think that that's a real picture. So those are different ways that it can potentially negatively impact self-esteem. And then, of course, exposure to misinformation or what we would call disinformation. Misinformation is just kind of a sharing of something that's incorrect. Disinformation is like intentionally incorrect information that's shared with a particular motive in mind, which unfortunately is very common today. And then participating in dangerous challenges. Some of these challenges you might have heard about in the news. There are a lot of different challenges that are actually fine, like maybe they're dancing challenges and that's fun and they can enjoy that. But there are some challenges that are very dangerous and can sometimes involve risk to physical danger or their health. So those are things that we want to be aware of and really be able to have these conversations with youth about so that they're aware and they know to not participate in the dangerous challenges. So this is a study that I did with a couple of colleagues in 2022. We used a platform called My Voice, which is a text-based platform. So we actually are able to send these questions out as a text message, and youth are able to text their answers back to us. So we're able to get a lot of information that way. And we received responses from over 800 youth. They were aged 14 to 24, and we asked the 3 following questions. What advice would you give to young people who are new to social media? Have you ever felt the need to change your social media use, such as what you view and time spent and why? And have you ever deleted or thought about deleting your social media accounts and why? So we really wanted to see, in this anonymous survey too, what were youth saying and what advice would they give? It's important to note that this survey was anonymous because in my experience as a child psychiatrist, a lot of the times when I do talk to my patients about their social media use, they will say, everything's fine, I've got it under control, there are no problems, right? Because they don't want me to go to their caregiver and say, oh, I'm concerned about this. And then, a lot of the times their biggest fear is that their phone is going to be taken away. And that's not necessarily what we would recommend, but I think that is a barrier to them being fully upfront about the concerns that they have about their social media use. So this is what we found. We found that they had a lot of insight, actually, about the negative impacts of social media, and they were really concerned about safety on social media, which was a very interesting finding for us. A majority of the respondents did delete or think about deleting their social media account or app. Youth were more likely to report wanting to change the amount of time they spent on their social media compared to the content they view. So maybe they were feeling like, gosh, this is really actually getting in the way of my homework, or maybe I'm actually not getting much sleep, or I'm actually staying up all night on TikTok. So we did hear a lot of that. And they were more likely to report employing methods to modulate their use because of this awareness. So they were already looking at what settings are available to me. Can I change, can I find different ways to change this so that I have a better experience online? And then at the same time, many did find it difficult to eliminate social media altogether. We hear a lot about youth deleting an account or app and then going back to it. Maybe a friend sends them a post that is only viewable on Instagram, so they end up re-downloading it. So we did content analysis of all of their responses, and these are the themes that we found. So I'll just kind of go over these. From youth self-modulating perspective, they conveyed the idea that things on social media aren't always real, right? So they kind of would say, this might be a picture that someone photoshopped. There are a lot of different fake things on social media, so they were keen to advise their peers about that. They also mentioned that people only post the best parts of their lives, or photos are edited, so you don't really see the ups and downs of someone's life. It's kind of just a highlight reel. They're unlikely to post like a negative thing that happened in their life, even though we know life is a series of negatives and positives and everything in between. Misinformation, they were definitely really aware of that. Not to overvalue it, that there are other things in life that, that it might be something that is important, especially for someone in their age group, but not to really make it more important than everything else. Along with that, don't forget about quote unquote real life, and don't base your self-worth from it. Kind of along the similar line of thinking, not to take it too seriously, so that maybe it's something that's used for fun, or maybe it's something that's used for entertainment, but it's not something that you need to really worry or obsess about. And then that it's okay to not use it. A lot of youth actually said you go ahead and take a break from it. That's fine. See how you feel. And kind of said that there's nothing wrong with stepping away, even if it's just temporary. And then there was a concern about what they share on social media. So they said to be careful what you share, not to overshare, not to give out any personal information, and being careful who you interact with. There was a sentiment that they felt like everything you post is permanent, that even if they were to take a post down, someone can screenshot that, right? And it can still, once it's out there forever. You might as well kind of think of it that way. And then, so just to have that consciousness and to, which you see the two sides, though, that they're then kind of tasked with, is to not take it too seriously, but also that everything is permanent, so to think about the consequences before you post something that's maybe overly silly and you maybe wouldn't want a future employer to see. And then to be yourself on social media. A lot of youth said that there's a lot of pressure to conform to certain trends or certain habits on social media, so really trying to see how you can be true to yourself. And then concern about unhealthy habits. So we see about being careful about how you consume, limiting the time spent. They actually did sometimes use the word addicted, and that's very That's a very debated word in this space of social media use, but they did use it nonetheless. And they said, not to lose control, so to feel like you're really always turning to the app or kind of impulsively always opening it like it's automatic on your phone. And then limiting unhealthy content consumption. So there are some types of content on social media that can be really damaging, can be really cause a lot of distress if it's seen over time, and or even just one really distressing video could have an impact on someone. And then concern about interpersonal relationships on social media. So there's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of just negative comments. So they said, don't bully others. Don't start fights. And then on the flip side of that, don't let the bullies affect you. So now I'm going to read some quotes directly from youth about these topics. So here's the first one. The advice I would give is to be careful on what you're watching and who you follow. So that's really specifically about the content, right? So if you're following a lot of puppy accounts, that I always go back to this, the puppies. If you follow a lot of puppy accounts, that's probably going to bring you joy. That's probably going to be a happy thing. If you follow a lot of accounts about like dieting or diet culture, that could then have a lot of really negative impacts on your life. If you follow a lot of accounts that are kind of negative, maybe they are about just kind of always lead to them feeling more negative about themselves or more negative about the world, that would be something to be cognizant of. Don't fall into toxic traps. There's so much pro-eating disorder, pro-self-harm content out there. Cultivate your content. So again, making sure that they are unfollowing or muting accounts that no longer, contribute to their well-being. And then, yes, there were multiple times where I had to manually block content I felt was negatively affecting me and force myself to take time away from certain apps. So this is a really insightful comment from a youth who actually took steps to change their social media use. So a couple other quotes here that I'll share. I would tell young people that models only look good on Instagram because of angles in Photoshop. So this idea that the pictures aren't real, and so encouraging young people not to take everything as a real image on social media. I started craving likes and follows, and after a while realized how unhealthy it was. So I ultimately decided to cut down my time. So this idea that they really wanted those likes, and that's kind of a social currency online. And then whenever someone is posting too many negative things, I just snooze them on my feed. I try to be very mindful of who I follow and what I engage with because it can affect my mental health. Okay, last couple of quotes here. So honestly, it is to not take everything to heart. Tell an adult if anyone you trust if you encounter cyberbullying. To know that hiding behind a screen never makes it okay not to be kind, right? So there's this element of you want to make sure that you are not incurring negative impacts to your well-being, but also you want to make sure you're being a nice person online too, right? That you're not negatively contributing to someone else's ill-being. And then people were being hateful and I could not take it, and not to listen to hate comments because people are commenting are hurt and want to hurt others to feel better. So now we're going to talk a little bit about cyberbullying, and so this is a really important topic, and it's especially challenging online because it can be anonymous. So there can be someone who signs up with a fake account. They don't even know who this person is who's putting mean comments on their posts. And then it can occur anytime, right? Traditional bullying might only occur in person at school or at an after-school activity, but this cyberbullying could happen at 3 a.m. And so it can feel really, really challenging for youth, and it's just a big stressor for youth today. A lot of the times they won't call it cyberbullying, though. They might call it drama, they might call it teasing, they might call it gossip, they might kind of downplay it a little bit. Maybe they don't want to feel like they're the victim or the target in the situation. So there are lots of different ways to ask about it. These are examples, though, so it's helpful to know like what would be considered cyberbullying. So embarrassing or hurtful comments, photographs being posted online or sent to the target, rumors being spread about the target online, sexual comments or gestures being posted, threats of harm being sent to the target through messages, someone pretending to be the target online, and nasty videos or web pages being posted about the target. So there's a lot of different examples here. We can see how challenging this can be. So someone could set up an account and start putting negative comments on their peers' posts, but they could also set up a fake account as that peer and then start saying things and pretending to be that peer, and then all of their peers then are like, what are you doing? Why are you saying all this? Why are you posting about this? This isn't like you. And then they find out someone has actually put up a fake account for them. So that's there's just lots of different examples. It's a really important topic, like I said, because there is a connection between cyberbullying and suicide. Targets are 1.9 times more likely to have attempted suicide, and perpetrators are 1.5 times more likely. And if adolescents are both perpetrators and targets, they experience the most adverse health outcomes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you say the extent of cyberbullying? Is there any estimate of what percentage of youth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question was, what percentage of youth are experiencing cyberbullying? And the rates really vary, and that's because of a couple of different factors. One is that a lot of the times they'll have asked youth past year versus lifetime. So we get different numbers if you're asking them about the past year versus their lifetime. And then we also know that what is defined as cyberbullying can be different depending on the survey. So I wish I could tell you a better range, but the numbers honestly are kind of all over the place because there's that variability in how it's asked. But there is some good literature. I believe Dr. Nixon has done a lot of work in this space, so that would be a good doctor to look up. So this is a slide about, what would you want your conversation with? Oh, sorry, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm supposed to do the mic thing, as you know.
Thanks. I just want to go back to the first part where you were talking about the young people responding, about what their practices are online. I can't tell what kind of demographics were there in the 600 students. I'm interested in issues about any differences across male students, female students, students of color, rural students.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So the My Voice sample, it is a nationwide sample, so that it is a sample of students throughout all 50 states. However, it is actually slightly more diverse than what would be like a nationally representative sample. And so I don't have the exact breakdown right now, but if you do search the paper, I'll say it so that it'll be available on the recording. It's called Youth Insight About Social Media Use and Self-Modulating Efforts. So that would be a place where you would have a table of like the full demographic information. Yeah, that's a good question. We didn't look at the data. It was all qualitative, so it was all just their responses to the survey questions, and we didn't break it down by any other demographic. We looked at the whole data set altogether, but all of the themes that came up, we accounted for everything that was said, if that makes sense. So as far as the conversation, so we really want to approach any conversation about social media with youth with a sense of curiosity. We don't want them to feel like we're going to, make big changes based on what they say. We want them to feel like they can come to us with any challenges or any problems that they have on social media. Of course, there is there are times when we as adults would need to take action, and if there's a safety concern, if there's concerns that are related to them being, their well-being really being impacted. But we really do want to try as best as we can to have a shared goal of improving their well-being and minimizing their ill-being. So we'd ask things like, what do you like about social media? We really want to get to know, like, what is it about social media that keeps you coming back to the app? What do you not like about social media? Because I'm sure, based on our survey, that there are a lot of things that they don't like about it. Have your friends ever found themselves in bad situations due to social media? Sometimes it's easier to talk about the friends when you talk about the youth themselves. And then the next question that follows is, have you ever found yourself in a bad situation due to social media? What does social media add or take away from your life? Tell me about your online friends. Are your online friends the same friends as your school friends, or your soccer friends, or your dance friends? Or have you met people that you only know online? Do you have any fake accounts or multiple accounts on one platform? Have you ever thought about changing your social media use? What would have to happen for you to feel like you want to make a change to your social media use? And what are some steps you could take towards changing whatever their goal is that they say? And how can I help you with that goal? And then just a continued conversation, have your friends ever been cyberbullied or had mean comments posted about them? Have you ever been cyberbullied or had mean comments posted about you? So we know that cyberbullying is a very important topic, so that's why we like to ask about it. And then, have you ever seen any pro-suicide, pro-self-harm, or pro-eating disorder content on social media? So this is going to be a video. This is a practical guide about how to turn off like counts on Instagram. So as I said earlier, sometimes youth put a lot of value on how many likes that they get on a photo. So it can be helpful to turn that off if they find that they are really putting a lot of emphasis on that, and then it's less likely to cause that negative impact for them. So we'll go ahead and watch this.
We'll guide you through how to hide likes on Instagram. First of all, I'll show you how you can hide the Instagram likes on your own posts, and I'll also show you how you can hide the likes of other Instagram posts for yourself as well from other people. Firstly, we'll show you how to hide the likes on your own Instagram posts. So find the post you wish to do this for example this one here. After you've selected it, go to the top right and click on the three dots, and then literally just click on hide like count. And now, as you can see, it's now been hidden and you can't go and see the exact amount. And that'll be applied for other people looking in that post as well, and you can repeat that for other posts. And to go and hide the like count for other posts so you can't go and see that from other people, all you need to do is go to your Instagram profile, go to the top right and click on the three lines, click on settings and privacy, scroll down to like and share counts just here. And then you can switch on hide like and share counts at the top like so, and then when you go and look at other posts from other people, you won't be able to go and see how many likes the post has.
Just a very quick how-to, but there are settings available on these apps where you can change these things so that maybe this would make a difference for a kid who feels like very bad about themselves if they only get a couple of likes on their photos and they're feeling like their friends are getting hundreds of likes on their photo or whatever it may be. So this could be something that might help. Changing content on Instagram. So we're going to talk about how to hide or block content.
Hey everyone, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to change your content suggestions on Instagram. So this is going to be particularly useful for individuals. Let's say that on your recommended feed, you no longer like this. How do you actually go ahead and reset this? Now, in order to do this, you're going to click on your profile icon, and then on the upper right hand side, you want to click on the hamburger icon. Now, this is the really important step, guys, just because there's a lot of buttons here. You want to scroll down to where it says what you see. Okay, so that's the section that we're looking at. It's this middle section here. Then click on content preferences. And now from here, what you're going to do is click on reset suggested content. So you're going to see this prompt here, want a fresh start. We suggest polls, reels, and other content based on factors like who you follow and your activity. You can reset to see something new. So this is just a simple prompt. From here, you just got to make sure you read all the things that are included with this reset and then click on next. Before resetting, review who you follow and your ad topics. Consider unfollowing accounts that share content you no longer want to see. me. So now, in order to actually make this work, it's basically saying that you should unfollow accounts who you don't like seeing feeds from, which basically makes sense, right? Just because Instagram is an algorithm and it tries to show you things in which you follow, assuming that you actually like seeing the content that you follow. So from here, you would just click on reset suggested content, and then that's about it. So this right here, guys, is the best and easiest way that I know of to actually go ahead and change your content suggestions on Instagram.
Yeah, so once you start hiding more posts like that, maybe it's related to University of Michigan, for example, for this one, the algorithm will learn that you don't want to see content like that. So this is about location sharing settings on Snapchat. This is more related to privacy.
You may decide you don't want Snapchat to be sharing your location, and so you want to go and turn it off. Firstly, head to Snap Maps, which is that location icon on the far left of the navigation bar at the bottom. And then what you want to do is go to the top right and go and click on that gear or cog icon, and that will open up your settings. And what you need to do is go and switch on ghost mode. It says when enabled, your friends can't see your last active location. So what you want to do is go and switch that on like so. So you've got a few different time frames for how long you want to turn on ghost mode for. For me, I want to do it until it's turned off, which basically means it will stay on and it will then say removing last location, and it's now been turned off. So now your location won't be shared on Snapchat. However, you may just want to go and completely turn off Snapchat having access to it. To go and do that, you can close off the app, open up your settings, and then scroll down and find Snapchat. Here it is, and go and click on it and click on location. And then what you can do is where it says allow location access is put it to never. So now if we come back to Snapchat, we'll close off our location. As you can see, it now says Snapchat wants to use your location. You can press on don't allow. And as you can see, Snapchat can no longer see where you are.
Yeah, so there's lots of ways where that can be problematic for youth. Of course, if they have that ghost mode off, anyone can see their location, who they're friends with. And then, of course, that can lead to other conflicts that we've seen where friends can see that other friends are, in the same location without them. They're hanging out without them. So that's another byproduct of that feature. But I would say the main thing is, of course, their privacy and not letting people they don't know where they are, where their location is. Another way that setting that can be utilized is refreshing the For You page on TikTok. So when you do this, it actually resets the For You page up to its original setting as if you've just started TikTok. So maybe for youth, they've gone down an algorithm where they're having a lot of problematic content that's being given to them in their feed. So they can go back and say, I don't want this in my For You feed anymore. I want to refresh it so that it's as if I started TikTok for the first time, and then I can really try to only view the art videos or only view the music videos that really bring me joy and skip the other ones so that it kind of relearns and retrains it to show them more positive content. So there have been some changes recently, and I want to be mindful of the time. But when people search for certain terms, so terms related to suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders, they hide those related results and actually direct them to resources. So what it looks like is the image on the left side. So you'll see that there are three options there: contacting a helpline. So of course, when we talk about 988 being a really great resource, especially for youth, and it's a really good way that they can contact someone if they're in crisis. They can either call it, they can text the number, or they actually have an online chat service. So if they go to the website, they can chat online. It could also prompt them to reach out to a friend or seeing suggestions from professionals outside of Meta. And there are two new settings where you can control how much quote-unquote sensitive content you see and how much your feeds are reduced by fact-checking. And of course, this is up to the company, and there's not much information about what they deem as sensitive content or how they go through their process of fact-checking, but those are two new options that are available. There's also hidden words, so there are ways that youth could hide comments or could hide words or block comments from certain people, and this relates back to the cyberbullying. This is a QR code for a video that we set up that kind of also that has all of the elements from the videos that I showed in this presentation today. So we talk about safety features, turning off the like and view counts, time reminders, and changing the content presented. So there's also information about TikTok and YouTube settings on that website. Another really great resource is family media plans. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. I'll just talk about the next resource. So it's this is through the American Academy of Pediatrics, and it's called Family Media Plans. And it used to be set up where it was actually like a schedule, but now they just have like certain questions and different topics that families can come together and agree upon related to media and what they're going to do as a family. So sometimes families find that really helpful to have that structure and to have that available so that they can say like, oh yeah, that seems like a rule that would be good for our family, or oh yeah, that seems like we could probably implement that, and pick and choose which things sound good to them. Sometimes keeping bedrooms screen-free at night can be helpful, especially when we know that sleep is so important, so important for youth, so important for their mental health, concentration, all of the above. Avoiding screens during the hour before sleep can be helpful. Not texting or emailing, of course, or web searching while driving, and we know that's now a law in Michigan. Keeping meals screen-free, exploring the privacy settings, like I said. Emphasizing kindness and empathy and respect online. So we're concerned about what they're experiencing, but we're also concerned about what kind of digital citizens they are themselves. So making sure that they're being kind online. And understanding how different types of content can impact emotions. Children and Screens, I can't say enough good things about Children and Screens. It's such a good website. They have really good information about very specific topics when it comes to social media and youth mental health. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, I'm a part of that. I've helped with some of the materials that they have online. They have facts for families. They have policy statements on these things. And then, of course, the American Academy of Pediatrics. We are so grateful for our pediatric colleagues. They're really the ones who are treating the majority of youth mental health because there really aren't a lot of child and adolescent psychiatrists. So we are so grateful to them and all of the great work that they've done in this space. The last resource that I'll talk about is called Psych Child. I'll go back and I'll put that last slide up when we do questions and answers. But this Psych Child is a really great resource. You can click on any different type of social media app or video game and learn more about it. So this can be really helpful for families if they're like, I don't know what Discord is. I don't know, what my kid is doing on Discord or what that's even about. You can learn a little bit about that. They also have like all of the major video games, which can be really helpful. So I'll give everyone a second for that. I just wanted to give you an example of the type of videos that they have. So I'll go ahead and play this.
About Fortnite. So what is Fortnite? Fortnite is a popular online multiplayer video game pitting players against one another in a competition to survive through the use of weaponry to eliminate other players and building forts for defense to remain alive. There are 3 main game modes available to play in Fortnite. Battle Royale is the most popular, in which up to 100 live players are put on a map and fight each other using various weapons until one person or team remains. The other 2 modes are called Creative, where players focus on building their own forts and exploring the map, and Save the World, where a team of players cooperates in fighting against zombie-like creatures while building structures, rescuing survivors, and expanding the size of their safe environment. Players can purchase in-game currency called V-Bucks, that can then be used to buy items that allow them to express themselves, like a certain outfit, often called skins, or dance, often called emotes. Collaborations with various individuals, brands, and companies, such as Ariana Grande, Stranger Things, and the National Football League, enhance this experience with themed skins and other coveted cosmetics that can be bought. Fortnite is wildly popular, with 239 million monthly players, and is available on phone, tablet, PC, and various consoles. So what are some potential benefits of the game? Well, playing action video games like Fortnite may help individuals learn or improve upon their cognitive skills, such as executive functioning and perceptual processing. When playing with others online, Fortnite may promote pro-social behaviors such as teamwork and empathy. Social relationships can also form through the game, which can supplement other social networks or turn into offline relationships themselves. So what are some potential harms of the game? Well, although there is no blood and gore, the game can still be violent. Video games that involve violence have been linked to aggression, however, no causality has ever been established. Children can be exposed to profanity or inappropriate content via communication with other players by text or voice, but parental controls have the potential to limit these interactions. Children could become so engrossed in the game and neglect real-life responsibilities or social interactions as well. So what are some ways to promote positivity and avoid some of these harms? Well, you can talk with your child about expectations for the games, including what time limits you set and what to do if they encounter bullying or inappropriate content. Additionally, check out all of the parental controls available on Fortnite. Ways you can manage how your child plays the game include purchasing permissions, changing communication settings for voice and text, and tracking how long they're online each week. Monitor their spending in terms of V-Bucks. Earning in-game currency can either serve as a reward for good behavior, but can drive the desire to play above a reasonable amount. Overall, continue to check in with your child about Fortnite. See what their character looks like, ask them about any in-game events that you might be excited about, or if they know what the next season of the game will be. Don't be afraid to try the game yourself too, as this can help you understand the game better and strengthen your relationship with your child.
All right, so that is it. These are my references, and I'm happy to take any questions.
This is great.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Christian Verkler. I work at Mott, so I need to send patients to you. Thanks for being here. So I have 3 daughters, 2 in grade school, 1 in junior high, and I'd wonder if you could take a step back and talk about the neurochemistry of the way these platforms are designed, because it seems to me to be incredibly addictive with how the intermittent reinforcement, the way they're set up is sort of like nonsense, and then something wonderful. And I remember kind of finding it out for myself the first time I ever saw TikTok and said, wow, this is unbelievable how addictive this is, and just how it's hitting that intermittent reinforcement or intermittent reward. And so I guess the question is, I've heard some podcasters lately talking about just how it's so challenging for parents and or anything else in society to even compete with that amount of dopamine that's going to get unleashed on their little brains. And so I see it because my kids don't have devices because they're pretty young, but they'll steal my phone like on a Sunday morning when I'm sleeping in a little bit. And then I'm like, why is it so quiet? Wow, they're hiding in the room like a drug addict, scrolling as fast as they can. And I see that grip on them. Just again, so I'm wondering, this is like they're already addicted to alcohol, and we're talking about choosing low sugar or high sugar drinks so they can drink more responsibly or whatever. But I mean, I wonder if you'd comment on how can we prevent our kids from, or how can we even compete with that? Or maybe I'm sounding like a kook, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say that these platforms are designed to maximize engagement. So they are designed so that people will stay on them as long as possible, so that they will see the ads. At the end of the day, they're companies and their goal is to make money. So they are designed with that in mind. And a huge part of that is the social currency, right? So we as humans are social creatures, and so they really want to, it was designed with the intention that, youth and anyone using their platform would value the likes, would value the comments, would want to feel connected by having friends. In these spaces. So it was designed with that in mind. And I will say that it is hard to compete with the screens, but that's why I really love those family media plans, because you can, as a family, and every family is different, try to figure out what makes the most sense for your family. Does it mean like everybody puts their phone in a basket at dinner time? Does it mean that all of the phones are charged like in the basement overnight, or whatever it might mean? A lot of the times we talk with families about getting an old school alarm clock, because a lot of times that's the pushback, is like, well, I use my phone for an alarm. So sometimes it means going back to the old school alarm clock and using that. And I think a lot of the times youth too, they want to see like, if this is the family rule, but the adults aren't able to break that rule, then that's not fair, right? They feel like I should be able to break that rule too. So really being clear about like what is the rule for the whole family, and figuring out what makes sense, because every family is different. For some families, like their family time might be at different times. So just really figuring out what makes the most sense and really trying to stick to it as best as you can. And then if it gets to the point where it's really out of control, that's when you can consult with a professional and see what they would recommend. And usually it doesn't involve fully taking away all access, right? It usually involves some kind of graded program, unless there is like a safety concern or something like that. So that's what I would say about that. And I acknowledge it's so hard. It is so hard for parents. We first and foremost want to acknowledge that it is so hard. These are new challenges that have never been, around before this new technology. So we are, very much empathetic to families that say, this is really, it's really hard to be a parent in 2025. So that's what sure.
Is there a safe age?
That's the yeah. Yeah, so the question is there a safe age to start using social media? And I would say if we had an answer to that, we always get asked that. But I would say the problem is every kid is so different, right? We could have a 14-year-old who wants to use Instagram to learn more about dinosaurs or something. And so that would be, probably okay. And maybe it's a very responsible, very, conscientious 14-year-old. But maybe, we might have a 17-year-old who impulsively, posts things all the time or is impulsively spending, which is another challenge on these. All of these platforms are linked, like TikTok Shop. They have a lot of different ways that people can spend money on them. So for that kid, it might be different. We might think about the rules a little bit different. But for any child, we want to really start talking about it early before they even have social media, have these open conversations so they feel like, yeah, I could go to my caregiver and tell them about this problem I'm having online. You'd want them to come to you if they have a problem, rather than being scared of what your reaction is going to be. So it's so hard. It's so hard to find that balance of making them feel like they can come to you, but also wanting to partner with them about their well-being. So that it is so hard.
Thank you. I have a question about what is the definition of social media? Like, is it equal to the screen time, or is AI software part of the social media? Yeah. Actually, I have a follow-up question that as well add, because so based on what's the definition, then have we done a study to say what's the percentage of youth are engaged with social media? Like, is it 95% or is it 55%? And then among those who are not engaged or engaged, what is the youth mental health rate? Like, does it make a difference? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question. So for social media, there are so many different platforms, and every platform is kind of different. Like YouTube, we technically consider social media, but it might not actually involve the youth actually interacting in a social way unless they themselves are posting the videos or they're commenting on different videos or liking the videos. But we still consider it a social media platform. So with that in mind, when the best kind of data that we have about youth engagement with social media is usually the Pew Research data, and that is 95%, and that does include YouTube. But that could just be someone, watching a YouTube video that their school recommended to them even. So that kind of is hard, and that's what's made it so hard to study, right? Because someone who's watching a science experiment on YouTube, that's a very different experience than someone scrolling for hours on TikTok, than someone who's actually like having bullying experiences on Reddit. So it's all just, and then sometimes youth are using multiple apps, right? That's usually the case, is that they have maybe they have an Instagram and a TikTok, or they have a Snapchat and they use YouTube pretty frequently. So it's hard to really study it because first of all, the individual is so unique. And then also the way they're using social media is so unique. So the individual, it's been hard to study because we don't know if that individual is using social media because they're feeling depressed, or if they were doing okay and then started to use social media. Maybe we're spending a lot of time displacing other activities. Maybe they were engaging in negative content and then kind of developed depression. So it's very hard. I think it's a very complex and very layered thing to study, and that's why it's been so challenging. But I'm sorry if that's kind of a really convoluted response, but it is hard because different surveys will define it differently, and that's what makes it challenging. Yeah.
I wondered if you could speak about the current role of schools in social media regulation, or what you see on the horizon for the role of schools.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think we will see more research out of the schools that are banning phone use in schools, because researchers, that's a perfect, ground for an experiment, right? Is to see like how were these kids doing before and how are they doing after? Or even just what do they have to say about it? Just having their qualitative data of their experience going from having their phones at school to not. So I think that schools, I think I'm such a huge advocate for social media and media literacy information in schools. I think it is so important in today's day and age, and unfortunately schools are very heterogeneous in how much they do regards to media literacy and social media education. But that's why we are trying to develop these things. One of the things that we're developing is a social media single session intervention, and that is designed to just be an online intervention for youth to use on their own time. When we did the focus group for that, we actually found they enjoyed doing it as a group, so we might look into that a little bit further too, to see if we could do like small groups in schools where we're doing this intervention. But I think that it's definitely a space where it makes sense to provide education, especially when it comes to media literacy, because we're in a time now where there's so much misinformation and intentionally produced disinformation, and it's going to be a big deal because people make their health decisions based on this information. They make their decisions about whether they support or don't support certain policies, and that affects us all. So we're really behind when it comes to media literacy, and I think it's something that really needs to occur across the board in schools, and social media, of course, is a part of that, and trying to optimize well-being and minimize harms.
I think it might be a good time for you to advertise what this next session, what you hope. One of the things I appreciate, you're the first speaker that has said, or concretely what we should walk out of here having learned, which I really appreciate. So how about next week?
Yes, so next week, this week we focused more on content, and next week we're going to have a little bit of a refresher of what we learned today, and just because the repetition, we know it can be helpful, but then also time. We're going to talk about setting time limits, time settings on these platforms, and how to promote different types of disconnection strategies, because there are so many different types of disconnection strategies. So we're actually learning from youth about what they're doing to disconnect and trying to reflect that back to everyone. So that's what we'll talk about next time.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for coming. Here's a small token of appreciation. Yeah, and remember, you can go on to YouTube under playlist for faith formation, and you can see all of these. So if there's other parents that you or other people that you'd like to have see this, please be sure to go. Bill's really good. He gets it on YouTube the same day. So it's on now. Okay, so yeah, thank you again, Jay. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.